Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV, tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the church media designer. I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and as you can tell, today things are a little different. We don't have the bobbleheads here. We're not in the studio. We're actually at my office by my desk, and as you can tell here, we got my designer Mountain Dew bottles. We got my favorite little Coke van, and I can wear green for the first time in a very long time on this show. My home studio is actually under construction right now. We're getting carpet, the drywall's up, we're getting it finished, and so I'm gonna have a fully functioning home studio, which is really exciting, as well as a fully functional basement. Home studio just sounds a lot more extravagant and awesome, and so that's what I say most of the time. But so that's been going on, as well as you can tell here. I was actually in Haiti. I went on a mission trip to Haiti with my wife and 20 other people from our church. It was an amazing experience. We got to remove rubble, and I got to throw the sledgehammer, which I'm terrible at. I learned one big thing is when you sit in front of a desk all day, every day, and then you get thrown into an environment where you're supposed to work with your muscles that are non-existent, it gets a little difficult and it gets a little tiring. So it was super hot, and but I learned a lot about myself and about their culture, and it was really cool to see all of that stuff go on. So if you guys have any questions about that, or if you guys want to go on a trip, my wife works for Experience Mission, so you can check them out at experiencemission.org. It's an awesome organization. They go to Haiti, as well as Costa Rica and Jamaica, as well as a ton of domestic locations like Appalachia and Chicago and Navajo reservations and all these different places. And it's an awesome organization that partners with people in the community. So it's not just a let's gung-ho go in here and take over and do it the American way. They partner with locals, and part of our Haiti trip was actually partnering with local Haitian workers. So every person who came on the trip, we hired a Haitian worker. And it was really cool because we got to understand and see what it was like to work side by side with Haitians who have a different work ethic, a different time structure, just a different way about them. None of it's bad or good, but it was just different, and it was a really, really cool experience. So I want to encourage you guys, if you haven't been on a mission trip, whether it be local or global, I encourage you to do it. It gets you outside of your comfort zone. Leave what you do as your day job and go do something different, and it really helps give you perspective on what you do and why you do it. For me, it really helps show communication is super important. Mobile web is so important in third world countries. There's no such thing as laptop and desktop computers to these people. It's all about the cell phone. It's all about their knockoff iPhones, which I saw, which were really well done. They're all of their mobile devices. That's where it's at. And so if you have a ministry or you're doing something and you want to reach the third world, you have to do it through mobile. And that's where it's at. So all that to say, I want to really encourage you guys to go on a trip, to take some time, raise that money and go. It is so worth it, and I'm so glad that I got to go. Well, on this week's episode, we're going to be talking to Timmy Allen, who works for a church in Florida, and you guys may have known him from some other places, but we're going to talk about what they do at their church, as well as the production studio they're starting, and just some really cool stuff there, as well as I got a ton of great resources for you, some awesome inspiration from a viewer who actually sent this in and said, hey, check this out, and he did an awesome job, as well as some news about some new things coming up here in the future. So I guess I'm the only one here. So Coke van, if you're ready, let's get into it. Well, let's reach into the stockpile and grab some great resources for you and your church. And the first one, just recently while I was in Haiti, I posted an article about how to create a really nice page turn effect inside Blender. Now, if you don't know what Blender is a free, totally free 3D modeling and animation program. So if you're wanting to get into 3D, but your church or you can't afford to pay the thousands of dollars for a program like Cinema 4D, check out Blender. Blender. Well, this site, Blend Swap, has all sorts of freebies for Blender. So not only is the program free, but you also got some great resources. So as you can see here, we got some different, we got a beetle there, we have a guy, we got some guns and some different, little Lego guy, and they have environments, they have interiors. So they just got a ton of different stuff there, and all of that stuff is for free for you. So I encourage you guys to check that one out. Now, the next one is a great site. We talked about it a little while ago, but patterns and textures are really great. But one thing that's super common in design right now is to have subtle patterns and textures. Well, this site fulfills that to the T because it's called Subtle Patterns. So you can check out here. They have they all tile, and they have a ton of different, tiling patterns here, from dark denim to some paper and smooth walls. So you could use these designs inside After Effects, like we did a little while ago with some, wallpaper backgrounds. You could use these same things to do some tiling stuff, or you could use this in web design or just your regular design. So make sure to check out Subtle Patterns. Now, this next site is a really interesting resource for the local church. Now, a lot of times we do baptisms, or I hope we're doing baptisms, because that's a great way to know how the spiritual health of your church is. And this is a tool to help you in pre-baptism, to help people get prepared for baptism. And this was made by the folks at Crossway Church, and they created this for themselves, but they're giving it out to everyone, and this is Get Baptized. Now you can see there's a video here and a leader's guide and an FAQ, and so it's a really interesting site that you can use to get yourself ready for baptism. So I want to encourage you guys to check that one out. And last but not least is a series of videos with a new one coming out called Making It Look Great, and this is from John Dickinson from motionworks.co.au, I think is the URL there. He's from Australia. He has a great accent, but he has a series, and this is the 9th one in the series, called Making It Look Great. And he covers everything from After Effects to Cinema 4D, and talks about, it's basically some in-depth training to help you make your videos and presentations look great. So check out this promo for Making It Look Great 9. So as you can see in that promo, some really cool stuff going on. It's all modeled inside Cinema 4D as far as I can tell. But not only is that video available, but he has a ton of other ones. So I would encourage you to go check out his website, check out the entire series, because there might be some older ones that might be more up your alley, but some really, really great in-depth training there for you. So you can find that link and all of the other links in our show notes at cmd.tv/130. You can find all the links in the show notes there, as well as all the different videos and inspiration, all that stuff on the website. So go check them out. Well, on today's show, we're actually going to be talking to Tim. There's a million different names. I asked him before the show what he wanted to go by, so we're going to stick with Timmy. And he works for Christ Fellowship in southern mid-Florida area. They're actually a regional church. They have multiple campuses, and so we're going to be talking about his background in media. Some of you guys might actually recognize him from another show that's been online, actually multiple different shows. He was a part of Keyframers TV, but also was a part of Film Riot, which was a part of Revision 3. So if you watch Totally Rad Show or Dig Nation, it's another show on that same network. And he was a part of the beginning of that show, and his good friends still run that show. So, hey, Timmy, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. How are you doing?
Doing very good. So give us a little background on, I came to know who you were through Film Riot, but how did you get started in media, and how did you get to where you're at today at Christ Fellowship?
Well, like so many other artists, what happened was I was a failed musician. So right out of high school, I joined a band with my brother and some friends, and we did touring stuff. And I was kind of the guy who did all of the website design. I did all of the flyers and stuff like that. So when that whole thing failed and the whole rock star dream kind of fell through, the only thing that I had left was, well, I like to design. I like to make websites and stuff. So instead of doing the 4-year college thing over, here locally in Florida, there's a school called Full Sail, which I know you're familiar with.
Yep, I actually went there as well. So, and I think we were very close in time frame. When did you go there?
I graduated in 2007.
Okay.
So, but when I went, they had the bachelor's degree. So it was I started in November '05 and then graduated August 2007. But yeah, so since that was really the only thing that I had besides music, that was kind of what I gravitated towards, and then ended up starting doing web design. But there was like a 2-month course, which was actually motion for web design, which was a lot of like Flash, and then how to bring your After Effects projects into Flash and then kind of use them for web. So that was kind of the thinking. It was never like motion for advertising or motion for video. But there's just something about it. It bit me, and after all the money spent on learning web design, I threw it all away and decided to just do motion, which turned out to be 2 months of my life there, which is kind of silly. But yeah, so I mean, that's how. Yeah, totally. I mean, I know so many of my friends that graduated there are now car salesmen, and not that that's a bad thing. If you're watching this, it's not.
Yeah, but, keep your day job.
So it was just cool to do that, and I mean that's where it comes from. I've been doing it for quite a while now. So if I graduated in 2007, and I got a job straight out of college at a studio in Orlando called, at the time it was called Hydra, now it's called Purple Rock Scissors, and I was there for a year. And then ended up moving back home in 2009 to help the family with financial stuff like that. But moved back home, moved back into my old bedroom, and then just kind of did freelance there. And that's where I am Tim.me started. That's when I worked with Ryan Connolly when he held his position at another studio that he was working at before Film Riot and all that stuff started for him. So then I was at home for a year, and then my boss now, or the leader of studio, the head of Studio B, Everett Bose, he hit me up and was like, hey, he wasn't actually looking to hire me. He was looking to see if I knew of anyone locally that was looking for a job, and I was kind of just like, cool, God moment, and I was like, hey, I'm kind of sort of looking for a full-time job. If it could be me, let's do it. So that worked out, and so I've been here since March of 2010. So I've been here just a little over a year. So yeah, there you go. Boom. Brief summary of how I am where I am.
Sweet. So it's super interesting how I know many of us, I got started doing sound and now I'm doing video most of the time. And, it's just really interesting how all of us, start someplace but always end up someplace different. So it's always cool hearing those kind of stories. So like you said, so now you're at Christ Fellowship and you mentioned Studio B, and that's the creative department at your church.
Right. Yeah, we're not like a separate thing from CF. It's just we thought it'd be fun to add a name and a brand to our department. And since we're our main campus here is in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and there's a couple buildings on this campus. So we're in the B building, and we are a studio. So we kind of just that's where it came from. And then if I don't know if you'll show the logo, but the B is actually a pair of black frame glasses because most of us wear black frames. So anyway, we just thought it'd be kind of fun.
So how many people are actually a part of that department?
In our department, there are a total of 7. But actual like workhorses, there's like we count it as 3.5 because we have receptionists and people who do like our life stories. Just things that happen here in the church with people in our congregation and stuff. Any stories that they come into are dealt with 2 of the women that work in our department. And then we've got, like I said, she's kind of we kind of call her, she's kind of like our mommy. That's kind of how we think of her as. She's the one where if anyone's got a headache, we'll walk up to her and be like, Amy, my head hurts, and she'll be the one to run out and grab it. Plus she does some editing also, but mostly deals with like DVD production and taking what we've done over the weekend and putting it on a DVD so that we can put the sermons in the series together to sell in the bookstore and stuff like that. And then there's Everett, who's kind of the manager, the boss, and he edits. And then there's Ben, who does a lot of Final Cut, a lot of shooting. And then there's Jameis, which is kind of like our little, he's our little 20-year-old superhero. He basically, he's a shooting maniac, and he edits like nobody's business. And then I deal with most of the motion, most of the 3D. And that's kind of our ragtag team. But we're actually in the process of bringing more people on. We're still kind of looking for the people to bring on. But yeah, so we're growing, which is great.
So that's by most churches, most normal church standards, that's a pretty sizable team. So how many campuses and how big is Christ Fellowship for those who aren't familiar?
If you count our online campus, well, we call it an online campus, we have 5. We have 5. We have the Palm Beach Gardens one, then there's Royal Palm, then there's City Place, there's Stewart, and then we have across the street from this main campus, we've got an all-Spanish campus, which we just call CFE, which is CF Espanol. So there's 5, and then I guess 6 if you count our online stuff that we do.
Okay, and how do you have any clue on number-wise how large that is?
I know for Easter, and obviously Easter is a different situation because it's, but I know for Easter there was somewhere along the lines of, and I'll probably get yelled at if I get this number wrong, but I think it was close to 43,000, and then I think on a weekly basis it's close to 22 to 25, give or take $2 or $3 grand. I really don't know. Sadly, that's not really my area of knowledge, but I know that there's quite a bit. I mean, we ran 22 services alone for Easter from all of our campuses. So I would imagine there's quite a bit.
That is, yeah. And I mean, I always hate that whole numbers question that you always get asked as the first question about things, but it is interesting to know, size of staff that you have versus the size of church and that sort of thing. And, so tell me a little bit about what it looks like as far as production goes with all of those different campuses and media and stuff like that. I know a lot of people are, and we've talked about this on other shows and interviews, but what does it look like to make a piece of media and know it's going to go to, 5 campuses, one is in Spanish and one's online? What does that look like?
All the campuses get more or less all the same material. We get all the same media. Each campus, there's nothing catered to any one specific campus, obviously, except for CFE. But like I was saying before, workflow really, it just depends on what kind of a project it is, and that's when we'll pull someone onto the project. So if it's a basic shoot, edit, produce type thing, then usually that only deals with James and Everett. If we're throwing motion into it, then I'll jump on. But again, it really just depends on the scale. If we're bringing a whole bunch of design into it, we've gone as long as 2 weeks for a project to a month for a project. It just depends on like I said, what it is. Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, totally. So what does the workflow look like for somebody to come to you guys and say, I need, the youth ministry comes to you, or kids, or Sunday morning comes and says, hey, we need this done. What does that look like? How last minute are you guys, or how long term are you guys with projects? And I know it varies, but
right. So it depends on if oh man, this has just happened, and we really need to put a fire under it. What we'll usually do is we'll make sure that if it's, let's just say it's just a talking head piece, maybe it's the pastor wants to put out, a real quick announcement, maybe with some B-roll from, Worship House or from stuff that we've done before. If it's just an editing piece like that, usually what we'll do is we'll request, hey, can you just give us 2 weeks for us to put it together? So if you need it 2 Sundays from today, you'll tell us today, and then we'll have the full 2 weeks to do it. Again, we try our best to plan and make sure that if fires do come, there's enough leadway to where we can hopefully put those out. Again, depending on, I can't do a full 3D motion graphics bumper, in 2 days.
Right.
So it's purely situational, but on a normal situation, it's, obviously excluding Christmas and 4th of July and Easter. If it's a normal sermon bump or sermon open, the way Todd Mullins, our pastor, likes to do things is he'll kind of do almost like I don't want to call it a tease, but he'll start his point in video and then finish the point there live.
Yep.
Because that also helps with the multi-campus thing. He'll still be kind of like the head over all of CF as a family, as one church. So he'll introduce the idea, the point, and then the rest of the, each separate campus pastor will kind of finish off those points and ideas at their own campuses. So something like that is usually he'll show up. He'll say, in 3 weeks we've got this sermon. This is the point that I'm going to be hitting. How much time do we need to shoot, to edit, to post-production, to compress? Usually it only takes about 2 weeks to put something like that together. And again, just to make sure that we've got enough space before each weekend in case a fire shows up, we definitely like to keep that 2 week minimum window.
So do you want to maybe walk us through a recent project that you guys have been working on and just kind of show us like how all the different team members fit into it and the work that you've done and that sort of thing?
Great. So I think a good one to kind of talk about would be the Beautiful Things video that we did for our Easter service. This was something that, like I said, went out to all of our campuses, and it's what it is we played this song live, and we wanted something visual to go along with what the song is. And the song's called Beautiful Things, and it's by a band called Gunger. And the song's basically, it talks about how God makes beautiful things out of nothing, or out of dirt, or out of dust, or just how he can step in and change something that's broken and make it fixed. So we kind of had the idea to take these life stories that we've been hearing about people in our congregation that, my life was, bad. Now I'm found God. Now my life is good. So throughout the song, what we did was we attached these. It was kind of like the cardboard cutout testimony thing that has been happening a lot, where you see the person holding, my life is terrible, flip, my life is now good. We kind of took that idea and, I don't know, just put it in our own thoughts, put it in our own idea. So what we did was we took their cardboard cutout and we basically put it next to their head, and then we motion tracked it to their head. So something like this, the way we would put this together is we're lucky enough to have the facilities to, we have a big green screen wall. We have a big psych wall in one of our rooms, and we just, we stood our talent on those rooms, and just shot them normal. We kind of just sat there and said, hey, think about how things were, how bad things were, and kind of show it on your face. And they did a great job with that. And then we said, okay, now show us with your face how great things are now that, God's changed your life. And then we got that. So after we had shot them, which was Jameis, again, because Jameis is kind of our shooter, he then obviously captured and gave me all the footage, to key out and to create this kind of bluish background to put behind them. And then after all that was done, before we got into any of the real crazy visual effects stuff, we passed it off to Everett, who would then edit all of it together. Because I'm not really like the sound effects, music design guy. I'm not super great with, I guess, all of that. So he's kind of our resident guru, stuff like that. So he edited all the footage together and added the music bed and made sure that wasn't anything that I had to worry about. So then it took me about a week to add the lens flares, the warm orange particle, all the text next to the faces, the lens flares. And again, Everett was the one who kind of added all the footage of the sprout growing out, of the people playing the stringed instruments. Because again, I didn't bring that up, but we went out to a field here close to campus, and we have a couple people who go to the church, who are friends of people who go to the church, that play strings and stuff. So we kind of hired them to come out and let us shoot them, and because there's a very string heavy section of the song, so we thought it'd be cool. They were there live playing it on stage, but obviously it'd be cool to show it in the video as well. So we did that, and again, Everett put it all together. And
so when you were filming that, did you filming on the green screen at least? Was that all on tripod? Were you on sticks for that, or was that handheld? And were you tracking the green screen background as well as the people, or did you just do a track on the people?
Yeah, that was just a track on the faces. I was just looking for, and I didn't use anything crazy for the track. I just used the track built into After Effects. I'd try and find 2 points on the face that obviously, we would want to stay. So at times it was the corners of the mouths. At times it was the corner of the eyes. It kind of just depended on, sometimes they'd smile and that would ruin the scale of the track. Sometimes they would move their eyes and stuff. So at times it was just earlobes. But we shot that on sticks. We shot it on a tripod. And then yeah, that's how we did that.
Okay, so you're using built-in tools, nothing special. Did you use optical flares or any other plugins to make this piece happen?
Of course, the flares are optical flares. You can't get any better than that.
Yeah, it's the best money can buy. It's the cheapest. It's actually the cheapest money can buy for.
And best, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I know one other video that you were showing me right before we started, and it was when I looked at it, and I didn't even have the sound up, I just looked at the piece, and it was visually stunning. And this was a piece that you guys did as an intro for a worship night. Can you tell us a little bit? We'll show the footage, but can you tell us a little bit about what this looked like, or where you shot this at, and how you got the shots that you did?
Cool. Yeah. So every first Sunday of the month, our City Place campus does a night of worship. So Russell, the worship pastor there, and some of the other guys that are in the band, we all kind of had a little powwow, a little meeting, decided it would be great if we could kind of make a call to action to the people in the congregation before the night of worship even started, basically saying, what if, you could see God's face? What if you really just engaged in the night? What if you really just gave it all and just dove into worship? What if you really dug in? What would happen? What would that look like? What would that mean in the next 90 minutes if you just gave everything that you could to worship then and there? So we, one of the band members, Danny, came up with this script, which is all the text that you'll see in the video. And keep in mind, the band isn't on stage at this point. Right now, it's just the video's rolling. The screen is, the room is black, and the video's rolling on the screen, and everyone's kind of reading it. And then halfway through the video, the story kind of ends and the song begins, and it's Hillsong's With Everything. I don't know if you've heard it before, but so the song starts, and now instead of the story there in the scene, we're now seeing the lyrics. And it was really cool to be there in person and to see the congregation actually respond and engage to it. So they're singing along with the video like crazy loud. Like, it was really powerful. It was super cool. And so at the end of the video, the band walks off, and then while the band's walking off, they actually walk on to the stage to finish the song off once the big kaboom kind of happens. And so the way I shot this is we kind of have a big empty studio, a few rooms open. A few rooms over. And what we did was, if you're looking at it now, you can see that there's kind of like these orange and yellow dots in the back, which are just LED Christmas lights. Originally, they were going to be used specifically just for 3D tracking, so that I can kind of get this rotation of the camera. Because what we did is we used an orbit dolly, and I totally forget what brand of orbit dolly we used. I don't know if there's multiple brands, but regardless, we used an orbit dolly to get these kind of cool circular movements around our talent.
And so did you rent that, or was that something that you guys own in-house? That's
something that we have in-house, whereas we also got a couple of crane shots from, it was a Kessler crane KC Light that Ryan Connolly from Film Ride actually let me borrow for the weekend for this shot, for this shoot specifically. So that was really cool. It's really cool to be able to grab and pull stuff from people around. You don't have to spend, anyway. But yeah, so we just built this circular room out of it's like pipe and drape and black dupentine. And then we had some of the facility guys that work here and some of the people who work in student ministries that have kind of experience with lighting and stuff. We had them hang these light bulbs on strings from the ceiling. We have a bunch of candelabras with lit candles all over them. And again, all we did was we had the song playing in the background on an iPod, and we just had them kind of just go after it and play it while I just moved the camera around wherever I felt like it would be appropriate. Now, something that I had to keep in mind when I was doing this was I knew that I would be putting huge bodies of text into this piece, so I always had to kind of keep in my mind what the composition would look like as soon as all this text was added. So if I knew that it was going to be real heavy on one side, obviously I would make sure to leave plenty of room. And, in hindsight, there's a couple shots where I feel like there was way too many candelabras in the shot, and it kind of made it hard towards the end, where I had to now mask out these objects in front of the text, and then they were behind the text as well. So it was a great learning experience, but just keeping all of that in mind while doing it, that's kind of like a new world for me. Being the one to build the set, to have the vision for it, to shoot it, and then to finish it off and do all the visual effects and stuff for it. Usually that's not what I do. So it was kind of cool to kind of get to do that, stretch my wings, learn a little bit.
So what did you use to do the tracking? Did you use PFO or did you use another program?
Yeah, we have PFO here. A lot of the times PFO is strong enough to take care of everything we needed to take care of. It sometimes Synthesize was something that we used for the real powerful, like more rotation based shots, because PFO is really good with stuff like that, but I feel like there just wasn't enough for it to grab onto and get points from, which is one of the reasons we use those LED lights in the background. But again, it wasn't enough for it. So a lot of the KC light shots, a lot of the crane shots worked fine, but once we started rotating around people, that's when PFO started to kind of break down a little bit. Maybe it's just I didn't know exactly how to grab it the way I should, what settings to set up, whereas Synthesize was kind of just like turn it on and it worked.
And Synthesize you can rent by the day, right? Am I correct on that?
Which is what we did, yeah, because we didn't have a license for it, so we got to use it like that, which is a really cool option. It's really cool that they get to that they do something like that. I don't think I've seen any other software company do something like that, so it's cool.
So I'm guessing that you guys shot all this on like a 5D or some sort of DSLR, because you guys had really heavy depth of field.
Yeah, this was shot on a 5D. I believe this was shot with a 50 prime. I don't think we changed lenses on this very much. We were looking for more of just, this is how it looks all the time. We're not looking to change moods or thoughts or anything with different lenses or aspects or anything. So I think we just kept it at 50 mil prime.
Well, one thing that I think is really cool about a lot of the videos that you've shown today and that I've seen from you guys is there's a lot of thought in scripture, and it's not just eye candy for the purpose of eye candy. That it's got a true heart behind it. And so, how does your personal faith / how does scripture and faith get woven into these pieces?
Well, obviously it's topic based. If it's more of a personal question of, me whenever I do anything, I mean, honestly, like thinking about grace for me is just a mind blowing thing to think about. Like, I used to have a big issue with, just things that had gone on in the past with my personal life, and how could God forgive me for any of these things, or how could I even approach God with anything, or how can I but grace, I mean, it's all about grace, it's all about favor. You look at Paul and all the I love reading about all the notes that he wrote to all the old churches and all his stories of grace. I mean, the dude killed, murdered, did awful things, and for him to be who he was in the end is just, it's the greatest story of grace that I can think of. And so whenever I'm doing stuff like this, I'm always just like, okay, how can I personally, with what I've been given by the pastors, by the storytellers, Everett tells me that this is what the story is that we're trying to get through. How can I now take that story and think about how God's changed my life, and how how his grace is just so great. How can I take all of that and now tell a story? So obviously that's more of a personal thing, but then, it's dependent upon what the series is about and what scripture has, taught, or any one of the other pastors given to us to share. But yeah, so again, with stuff like that, it's purely situational, but on a more personal level, it's just, grace. I mean, come on.
That's so cool to hear, man. I mean, like, I think, I think it shows through in the media that we create, especially the media that you create, that there is a life change behind the computer. And it's not just a life change on camera or a life change of an interview, but you can tell when the people who are actually doing the production believe and care about what they're doing, because you can just see it through. And so I just think that's super awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. I've never, in going through school and then even after school doing freelance and stuff, I grew up in a church, grew up in youth group, grew up playing music for church, for youth group, for Maine. Heavily involved. I just, it's cool. I've never thought that I would be in the position to where I get to do what I get to do at the level that I get to do it at, for a church, I think video and media and production for churches has come a long way since I was a kid. I think about all the like Melody Mountain and all that stuff on TBN and stuff. And then we look at what we're doing now, this kind of new school of thought, this more not being showy or over showy for showy sake.
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense. But we
don't have purple hair.
Right. Right. Yes, exactly. I might have at one point, but that's irrelevant. That's beside the story. But it's cool to have all these new things, all these new technologies and applications at our fingertips to help tell us, to help tell a story better than when I was a kid, when I was in youth group. So I'm just, I'm super thankful that I get to do this for a living, that this is something that I get to I'm excited to come to work. I get to talk about God, and I get to, hang out with rad people and talk shop. So it's cool. It's very cool.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here today and sharing your heart and sharing about you guys. If you want to share some links or throw out some places people can see more of your work, that would be awesome.
Cool. Well, my work, my personal stuff that you can go to iamtim.me. So that's my stuff. As far as Studio B and Christ Fellowship's work goes, you can follow Studio B on Twitter at @thestudio_B. We have a Vimeo page for Studio B, which is just vimeo.com/StudioB. The website for the church is gochristfellowship.com. And they actually just redid that website, and which is pretty dope. They did a really good job with that. I know CF also has a Twitter, and I'm gonna absolutely get reamed out by communications for not getting the Twitter name for CF correctly. So sorry, Cindy, but I think it's just.
I'll find it and throw it up there for you.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you,
there.
Brad. So
right now it's on the screen, I promise.
There it is. Right there. That's where you should go. But yeah, so that's that. Check out the Twitter for Studio B and the Vimeo for Studio B. We're going to be putting a lot of our stuff up. We've got loopable backgrounds that we'll put up for free. Anything that we put up on the Vimeo page is free for anyone to just grab and use if it works. Sometimes things are done with CF specifically in mind, and sometimes things are more broad, and if you feel like you can grab something off and use it to help share God's love, then do it. Absolutely. So yeah,
it's awesome. And then you're on Twitter at twitter.com/
Yes. Timmy _Allen is my personal Twitter. I can't believe I forgot that. That's embarrassing.
You're putting others first.
Yeah, totally.
It's humility, right?
Yeah. Humble as all get out. Come on.
Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. And again, you can find more at twitter.com/ Timmy_Allen or Studio_B. You can find all that stuff there. So go check out more of their awesome work. Well, this week's inspiration actually comes from a viewer of CMD, Eric Hinson, or Hisson, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but that's not important. He sent in this video and shot me an email and said, hey, check this out. I'm really proud of this video. And I checked it out, and it's super awesome. And, it uses a lot of different things like Twixtor to do some of the slow motion shots, and it's color graded inside After Effects. So there's some cool motion work going on. But again, on top of it all is a super rock solid script with an amazing soundtrack. And this is what makes or breaks videos, is what is your script and what's your soundtrack. You could put together all of the most amazing eye candy in the world, but if the script sucks, your video's going to suck. And if your soundtrack sucks, most likely your video's going to suck. So this is a really, really great video, and they actually have some more behind the scenes. So if you head over to teamselfdestruct.com/film, you can find out more about this. But, he was inspired by a bunch of different people, and you can tell that he spent some time on this video. So check out this week's inspiration, but you can always find more inspiration at cmd.tv/inspiration. But check this out.
I died today. You won't recognize me, but you will know me by my fruit. Evidential, not edible. Proof of life in a kingdom invisible. I died today, though I'm more alive than ever. In my revived existence, I am an ambassador. I exist to point to another, a representation of the one who sent me. I died today. You might deem me offensive. Nevertheless, I am a vessel set apart for nobility. We have all been chosen for a mission, given different weapons to demolish strongholds of darkness. I died today, but upon this death, I've been given life and the fullness thereof. In that moment, my lungs gave way to a force I couldn't understand. My heart twisted and turned, wringing out the remains of my old self. I died today. Will you?
Well, this week's freebie is a free motion background for you to use for your church. I made this in preparation for Easter, so it doesn't really look like Easter at all, but I want to encourage you guys to head over to the website and download this. You'll find it in widescreen and in full screen as a MP4 as well as WMV, so you can download those, use it for your church, use it as a motion background, or use it in some other production, whatever you want, but make sure you go over to the website. You can find that at cmd.tv/ what should we call it? cmd.tv/ Cloudlines1. There you go, Cloudlines1. You'll find that there, and you can download it today and add it to your arsenal. Check it out. Well, thanks a ton for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure to leave those on the show notes page at cmd.tv/130. You can leave all your questions or comments there. Thanks again to Timmy for joining us today. You can find him again at Timmy Allen, or twitter.com/Timmy_Allen, and you can find their church's work and their media department's work on Twitter as well at twitter.com/thestudio_B, so you can find that there. So make sure to check out all of their stuff, some great work there. And again, if you guys have any questions or comments, leave those. Also, I want to encourage you guys, if you haven't been on a mission trip, or if your church is looking for a place to go through, I'd encourage you guys to check out experiencemission.org. They have awesome trips, and I believe in what my wife does in the organization that she works for, and it's a super, super awesome place. They have like 26 different locations domestically and internationally, so tons of different places you can go. But that Haiti trip I went on was it was very impactful, and I could unpack a ton of it for you guys. But yeah, it's very well worth going on these trips. So I want to encourage you guys to go get in the midst of stuff. And I know the guys from Media Salt do creative mission trips where they actually take and you go to churches and help them with their creative production stuff and sound and lighting. So if you want to be a part of a trip like that, make sure to head up the guys from Media Salt, because they're doing some cool stuff with that. So hopefully we'll be back in the studio soon. It's getting finished up. We got to get some carpet in there and get some soundproofing and some different things done, but we'll hopefully be back in the studio soon. But thanks for joining me. And as for me in the van, because we don't have any bobbleheads today, actually there's a couple in the window over there that you can't see, but as for me in the Coke van, we're saying see you later.